I'm kind of a shy guy. I really didn't want to sing my own songs on stage. I felt very bad about it. I didn't really think I had much to offer in terms of an entertainer or singer. And it occurred to me that the best way out would be to invent characters, or a character, to sing the songs. So the first persona that came off was Ziggy Stardust. And it was much easier at the time to hide behind him than do the things myself.
Now, through all those alter egos and personas, is there a kind of a real David Bowie running through it all?
I think, presumably, I'm very much myself, and have been over the last 5 to 6 years since I stopped writing characters.
So you feel more relaxed and more at home now than you've been before?
Yeah, is the crack showing? Yeah, I feel quite relaxed about life.
Was there ever a chance that one of those personas would take you over and completely run away with you?
I think I got pretty crazy behind the idea of being all these different people. In the mid-70s, I had a very hard time with it, because I took it further than most people would. I mean, I would do interviews in the pose of Ziggy Stardust, so it was very rarely David Bowie talking. And it was like reinventing one's own personality. And it overwhelmed my private life to an extent that I had serious mental problems with it at one time.
Now let's take a look at some of those changes. Space Odyssey was the first one I could remember, Major Tom. What was that influenced by?
That particular song, it was just the atmosphere of the excitement of space at the time. But I couldn't see exactly how it would be utilized in the future, whether it would be for warlike or peaceful means. And there seemed something slightly irresponsible about the space program I could see happening. And so I made an irresponsible astronaut.
Did you actually go into a short period of self-retirement after that?
Yes. Yeah, at the time I was just sort of a folk singer more than anything else. And I hated performing. I loathed it. And the record got very big. And I just didn't like it. I didn't like performing in front of lots of people. And so I just got out.
Well, Ziggy Stardust is probably most memorable to a lot of people. How did that come about?
I wanted to combine, that was my first real need to combine my fascination with the East with the rock and roll culture of the West. Because Ziggy was a hybrid of kabuki style, it's kabuki influenced clothes. In fact, a lot of them were designed by Kansai Yamamoto, who was a friend of mine, and still is a friend of mine, I'm glad to say.
He still designs your clothes?
No. He's a friend of mine. And he designed for me the first stack-heel boots. Remember those things that everybody started wearing?
Platforms.
Yeah. Well, I still got the very first pair. That came from the idea of platform shoes from Japan. The red hair came from one of the characters from Kabuki, and a lot of the clothes were transformations of kabuki-style clothes, using Japanese no theatre material and stuff. I wanted to get a feeling of foreignness about Ziggy, as though he was alien from somewhere else, but not necessarily make him a spaceman. So for most Westerners, the furthest place they can think of is the East. And so I utilized that symbol of the East as being somewhere else. So it made him sort of unreal.
What made you eventually decide to put him to rest?
I hadn't really wanted to write any more about him than just the one album. But he got so popular, incredibly popular, that it was very hard to lose him. Like the last performance was in 1973 as Ziggy, which is 10 years ago. But still a lot of people can sort of think of me with Ziggy.
Always.
But he hasn't been on stage for 10 years. It's incredible how he's hung about.
Well, then came Aladdin Sane after that.
Yeah.
And he was very similar to Ziggy.
That was the breaking up of Ziggy. I mean, I got rid of Ziggy, but it was a question of, that was the burial of Aladdin Sane. And that was when I really started having problems with identification. Because I was fully involved in Ziggy at the time. So I couldn't, the only way I could break out of that was to record an album of songs written by other artists, which was an album called Pin-Ups, which came out after Aladdin. And that gave me breathing space so that I could prepare myself for something else.
Well, in that Ziggy, Aladdin Sane, and Diamond Dogs period, how elaborate did your stage shows get?
Diamond Dogs was really quite extraordinary. I mean, it was, I took a 40-foot high city around with me. It was monsters. I was only playing for like 2,000 people or something for this city. And it had movable bridges on. It looked like a cross between an Orwellian and Metropolis, Fritz Lang's Metropolis type city. It was a stunning looking show.
And when I get excited, my little China girl says, "Oh baby, just you shut your mouth." She says.
The idea of China Girl generally was as a song, was a kind of an example of the idea of the Western influence on the East that's not necessarily a good thing. It can devalue the Eastern culture itself.
So what can we look forward to in the future for David Bowie in the next year?
Okay, a very special project, which I'm not going to talk about. Hopefully a film that I'll direct, or at least co-direct. I'll be acting in another film, another album, and then I'll go to bed.